Ara Ara.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ara Ara Channel. I'm your host Vivz, and with me today is my usual co-host Amy.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest today. Who's our guest,
Hello.
Amy?
We have Waleed. Hi,
Woohoo!
Waleed.
Hey Vivz, hey Amy. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Thank
gonna
you
be
for
fun.
coming today. Yeah, it's gonna be super fun. We're gonna bully you
My
a
pleasure.
little.
It's
That's
alright,
what
it's
I
alright.
was worried about, because this episode is gonna be all about JoJo's Bizarre Adventures,
Yeah.
which I have two people here with me who loves the show so much. I haven't really watched it yet, so that's why I said they will bully me. But before we start with the episode, Waleed, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Of course. So my name is Waleed Hmidan. I'm a filmmaker, and I own a comic book store here in the UAE in Dubai, and very happy to be here. And I'm excited. It's gonna be fun, and we're gonna convince you to watch the show. The anime.
That's the goal. Yes, that's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, well, at least it's our chance to get to know you more, Waleed, especially the anime side of things, because we all, as you have mentioned, you have a comic book store and you do obviously pop culture stuff, but
Absolutely.
not everybody gets to talk about anime this much. So that's what we're gonna do today. So first off, what got you started into watching anime?
So funny enough, when we were kids, the cartoons we used to see on TV were actually anime dubbed into Arabic. And when I was a kid, I always thought those were just Arabic TV shows. It was Detective Conan, it was Captain Tsubasa, Captain Majid. I had always assumed that someone
It's
Arabic,
Arabic.
I always knew like Pokemon and Digimon were not Arabic. But for those ones, I had no idea. And then, of course, you grow up and you see anime, and you're like, wait a second, I was watching Japanese stuff, but like they're dubbed in Arabic. Oh wow, okay. So that's how, in a roundabout way, that's a JoJo reference, roundabout. Anyway,
Okay.
I started watching the anime classics after that. And funny enough, I watched JoJo later, like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, compared to other things that I've seen before.
Just 2 years ago, and you're
around
dispassionate
that.
with JoJo.
Absolutely. I'll tell you the whole story. I'm looking forward to it. The talking points are going to be awesome. It'll be surprising. But before JoJo, I've seen Death Note. I've seen a lot of those, One Punch Man, a lot of the classics. Funny enough, JoJo came way later. What we're going to talk about, for me, is the first 6 parts. So the animated parts. I'm not going to talk about the manga. That's a whole different. So like the part 7, 8, 9. I'm just gonna talk about the because part 7
Up till
alone
Jolene.
can have up till Jolene, absolutely.
Up till Jolene, that's the only one I've watched. And you guys told me like, what are you doing? You're watching the last one. I was like, oh wow, that's why I'm so confused. Like I tried lasting for like 2 episodes and I was confused as
I
hell.
remember at one point you told me this, and I was like, yeah, you're not gonna make sense of anything. That's like, absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Netflix fault, that's
Yeah.
what's recommended at that time. So I was like, oh, okay, this is season 1.
Yeah.
Let me watch it. So yeah.
And I'll
Now-
tell you something. Netflix uses the worst thumbnail of any show, and it's like, watch this. And it's like, what is this?
Somehow sabotaging the show, I guess.
Yeah. Believe me.
Well, now that we're here in this topic, how did you get into JoJo?
As a filmmaker, part of watching things is sort of like your job at times, because you need to take a lot of references and a lot of things. So I mostly, as we mentioned, I'm a movie guy first and so on. But then when I hear about specific animes that are classics or considered to be something, I end up watching them. But funny enough, for JoJo's, I was hate watching it. I started hate watching it. A strong word. Hate is a strong word, but believe me, I don't know. I had Crunchyroll randomly, or someone got Crunchyroll and we were sharing the thing, or I don't remember. And I saw JoJo on it, and at that point, it was on Netflix, but I had completely forgotten that it was on Netflix, because I was watching Attack on Titan on Crunchyroll, and I finished that, and then JoJo's was there, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is the ridiculous show that blah 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 blah.
That has
all the jokes.
Is that a JoJo reference?
Is that a JoJo reference? So I started watching it to hate on it, to like post about it and stuff, like, because I post reviews and I talk about stuff and so on. First episode, and I'm like, hey, that's not bad. Second episode, fourth part in, fifth part in, I could not drop it. I didn't watch a single thing while watching JoJo. I couldn't drop it, and I could not believe, because I'm very like set in my ways in terms of what I like and what I don't like, and I have very strong reasons why this is very good and this is very bad. And I was literally I was watching it to make fun of it or like to make jokes about it, and I couldn't drop it. I was saying, Amy, we're first episode, second episode. Suddenly, I'm on part 4, 5, 6, and I already halfway. I was already messaging people. I'm like, you have to watch this stuff, man. Rafi, hello. Okay, well, listen, listen, listen. And one thing also, to be completely fair, now I was hate watching JoJo, but also shout out. We have someone in the community, Fatma cosplay.
Yeah.
So at MEFCC, I saw her cosplaying Giorno, and at that point, I didn't know who Giorno was, but I knew it was a JoJo character. And her cosplay was
Okay.
so good, and I'm like, I will check it out because I know Fatma. She's a very nice person. I'm like, the effort she did put on to look that way. I'm like, there has to be something there, but I'm gonna watch it to make fun of the show. You know what I mean? So Fatma was one of the things that I was like, probably there's something there. So if I saw her at MEFCC, so I watched JoJo after last MEFCC or MEFCC before, whichever one that she cosplayed
Mm.
Jordan at. So after
Mm.
that is when I watched the first time.
For me, I think the first cosplayer that I've seen that's doing JoJo here in the UAE
Mm.
was Cherry, Green
Cherry, yes, I know
Cherry's
Cherry. Yeah,
cosplay.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then she was doing Jolene. But at the time, I just know that it's a JoJo character. But again,
yeah.
I haven't watched the show.
Because it is complicated when you don't know what it's about, so
Yeah.
you can't place which character and what's a JoJo, because there's like 6 JoJos or
Mm.
9 JoJos maybe.
Yeah.
uh
Which we will
And
talk more
that's a
later.
joke as well. That's a joke
of
as
course.
well. Like no one can explain JoJo. It's like, what's JoJo?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Sounds interesting. But what wait,
We'll get
I
to it.
wanted to ask Amy then as well. How did you get into JoJo? Because like Waleed is so passionate about it and you are as well, but I don't get it. So that's why I want to know, where did you start watching it? How? What
I,
happened?
I don't remember specifically, but I think maybe it was all the memes as well.
Hmm.
It was all the
Okay.
Dio memes. Uh, there was a really popular Dio meme. It was when he would say his stand when he could stop time.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
it was a very very popular meme at that time. And then I was like, what is this show? Like it looks so weird. And not that I wanted to like hate watch it, but I thought it would be one of those that you could just play in the background and not
Right,
really pay
right.
attention to it. I'm like,
Impossible.
okay. Yeah, so just like okay, so I could understand like all the memes and like is this a JoJo reference? You know, like what is all of this? So then yeah, I started watching it and initially I didn't really like it all that much. Like the first JoJo,
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't
John
really that into
Jonathan Jonas Jonathan
Jonathan.
Joestar.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I didn't really like it. And then Dio ends up burning a particular character that's special to Jonathan. And I'm like,
A pet.
wait, what am I what am I watching right now? And then that's just when I'm like, okay, fine. And I think so that got me watching. I kept watching. And then next thing you know, okay, this is like a huge spoiler alert. I'm sorry, but like at this point, you already know there's more than one JoJo. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, so the one JoJo passes
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
is gone, and then I'm like, wait, they actually killed the main character, and they're not bringing this person back to life. What's happening? And then it's like a second JoJo, and I was like, oh, I did not see that. I did not expect that to
Me neither.
happen.
Me neither.
Like I'm really usually very good at figuring out plot twists, but this was like very very unexpected because I went in not knowing anything,
Me too.
not
Me
know,
too.
yeah. So I'm like, oh, they did like legit, like this person died, like that's it, that's the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
when
So would you guys agree that the unpredictability was what made you fall in love with the series? Is there anything specific about it that made you want to watch more?
Part of it is unpredictability because, like Amy was saying, you're watching it and you think you're watching something, and then something huge happens, and you're like, "Wait, what?" And then the beautiful thing is when you're watching it, everything connects to the later parts. So that's why it's called parts, not seasons. It's not like other
Mm,
that's an important point. I know we were going to discuss it, but because this is related to this point, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is one story told on 6 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Is it
So a lot of
happening simultaneously, those parts, or is it?
no, they're happening
No.
in the same continuity.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
chronological. Yeah.
So the whole thing, chronological, and it's about that bloodline of the Joestars, the JoJos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Not wanting
some parts run parallel to each other, and then
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
touching points between them. And
But that's
then
why you can't
when it,
discuss the manga as well, because everything
yes,
gets
yes,
messed up
yes,
after.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Now, speaking about JoJo, because as we said earlier, we saw the memes. That's what gotten Amy into watching it. You wanted to hate on it. That's why you started watching
yes,
it.
yes, yes,
But look at what happened to you guys now. So I
yeah,
wanted to talk about
absolutely.
the memes, the fashion, the music,
Mm,
the JoJo's reference on pop culture. Is
right.
there any, like movies or anything that you can see where it referenced JoJo?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, to put it in perspective, JoJo started in the 80s, part one.
Okay.
And then between like part 3 and 4, there was like an 18 or 20-year gap or 10-year gap, something like that. So by the time part 6 got animated 2 years ago, which is the one on
Mm.
Netflix, that came out in the 90s, if I remember correctly, or so.
Okay.
So, or 2003, something like that. So that's already way too long ago. And it only
Mm.
got adapted now. There was one adaptation of JoJo before this, but it never took off. It was controversial and so on. Uh, so it's old, and once you go through JoJo's, you will see how it inspires Attack on Titan, how it inspires other anime, how it inspires other movies, and it's inspired by other movies as well. And one of the interesting points that drew me also to JoJo was that it took place in an international stage, not just in Japan. So the story
Mm.
takes place in different countries: Japan, UK, US, every single country between Japan and Egypt, which is
Yeah.
insane in part 3. So you go through a lot of things. So you see a lot more so in animation. There was the Ninja Turtles movie that came out last year. I think it had JoJo references in it. I'm sure there's JoJo references in a lot of other films that I can't place right now. But I've seen
Mm.
things, or
Mhm.
it's inspired by JoJo and so on, the poses and so on, and the fashion, the way JoJo looks, and some people misunderstand, don't understand what they're trying to do with these poses because they look
Yeah.
so
Looks
pretty
so
and like
weird.
it
Yeah.
does. It's because they're taken from fashion magazines. So Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka, the author of JoJo's, took direct inspiration from fashion magazines, including the poses and so on. If you see the memes, I'll say this, and I think it's an important point. The memes sort of ruin the perspective of what JoJo is, because they're so silly, or they're made by like maybe a much younger audience who are just focusing on like the bizarre part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like
Mm.
just spamming those same 5 jokes. The memes are not all that creative with JoJo's. So if I today saw these memes, I'll be like, all right, uh, stop. You know what I'm saying? But it misrepresents a lot of what JoJo's is. So memes got me to watch Evangelion. Also, I
Oh,
watched
okay.
Evangelion to understand the memes because they're so funny, which is another great show. But for me, JoJo was one of the best things I've ever seen. So when it comes to that, if you say, I see the memes, and it's like they're they're very misrepresentative of the caliber of the show is, because this is a masterpiece of a show.
Mm.
I feel like I was offending you guys with the memes because
No,
that's the only thing I know
no,
about JoJo. I was like, sorry.
no, 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 no.
Because Amy also said that she started watching it because of the memes. So I think
Yeah.
somehow the memes help in
Yeah,
generating,
yeah. Spread
publicity.
the yeah,
Yeah, spreading the
yeah.
news. And now that you've mentioned that the manga was actually started back from the 80s, I didn't know that. I thought it's
I
like the
think
usual
87.
ongoing. Yeah, I thought it's the usual ongoing mangas that becomes animated, like One
Yeah.
Piece, Naruto, everything else.
Mm-mm-mm.
So how does it compare to other long-running animes? Because
Mm.
if the manga, is it finished?
No, part 9 is still coming out in Japan, in Japanese, and part 7 hasn't even gotten the official English translation yet, which allegedly should come this year. The leaks are saying that it should come this year.
Okay. Have you
Yeah.
guys read the manga? Both of you.
Uh, I own a few. I own the first issue of the first 3 parts because I wanted to see the art as well, have it. But I will be getting them more and more. And definitely part 7, which is part 7 can be a whole different podcast. But part 7 is, which is insane. I'm just waiting for that to come out officially. I can read it. You can read it. You can find it. But I'm not doing that because I have an idea on what it is. And it's
Hmm.
so incredible that I want to read the official, and I want to purchase the official books or the manga or so on.
How
Yeah.
about you, Amy?
No, I haven't. But I do have an idea of what's to come as well. So
Yeah.
that's why
Okay.
when you were talking about the locations or like the timing, like, oh, what is this? Is it parallel? Is it chronological? I was like,
Mm.
Okay. That makes sense. Because, see, I was the one who wrote the show notes, and now I'm feeling like, okay, some of these are going to be confusing now that we're talking about it. So, see, I'm officially a beginner. I don't know
Yeah.
JoJo, zero knowledge. That's why you guys were shocked when I told you that, yeah, I was watching Jolene's part. And, okay, what are you doing? So, let's talk about the storytelling of JoJo, how it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do we need to watch all of the parts? I think that's an
Abs-
obvious yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
when you take it chronologically, the
Mm-hmm.
first two, usually the first part, people say, I stopped at it because it's nothing too innovative. The
They had
first part.
Hamon and not Stan.
Exactly. They had Hamon, which is, harnessing the power of the sun through their blood, something crazy, right?
Okay.
It had a more a story where it
Realistic.
wasn't just realistic. You've seen similar things to it,
Mm.
perhaps, but the beautiful thing is you see the evolution of Araki, because this was 1987 when he when
Mm-hmm.
he wrote it, and he was inspired by Fist of the North Star and yada 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 and other things. So you see how he started with, okay, I'm gonna try this. Part 2 is loved a lot,
Mm-hmm.
even though
Yeah.
usually part 1 and part 2 are lumped together, which is fine. Part 2 is still a little bit more innovative because the story is crazier. And then when you go to part 3, that's where, okay, this is insane. Like, it becomes unique, it becomes and so on. And one good thing about JoJo's that's extremely rare is each part is better than the last. So by the last one, by the culmination of 6, this is not a spoiler, but 1 to 6 are one story, and then 7, 8, 9 are a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
So those are one story, part 1 to part 6. When I finished part 6, I'm not lying to you. Here, I cried. Believe me, from how, like, I was like, there is no way someone made this glorious masterpiece, because it's perfect, perfect. The ending of the last, I'm watching it like, huh, what? And then you think it's خلاص, and then, oh my god, oh my god. I'm telling you, I had to rewatch that last ending several times just to make sense of it. JoJo's is complicated. I'll tell you one thing, not in a
Mm.
bad way, but it's complex. So
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to pay attention. But oh boy, is it worth it? There's not a bad part of JoJo. There is no bad JoJo themselves. There's no bad villain in JoJo. It's incredible.
Dio's not
It's
a bad
incredible.
villain.
Yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, as an uninteresting.
Oh, okay, okay.
Like,
Okay.
this is lame. This is no, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
True.
Just
No,
to
he's
clarify
horrible.
what that bad means. It's like,
I
because
swear.
Amy, sorry to cut you off, Waleed. Because Amy has
No.
told me what Dio has done in the show when we were
Hmm.
doing an episode about villains in anime, and
Right.
Dio sounded like super this evil person, and
Absolutely.
like he's just a piece of you know.
Absolutely. 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 And if you ever end up, inshallah, you finish watching it, I swear we can do another one and just talk in detail, because if I explain a lot of things about it, it might affect your enjoyment of watching it. But
Mm.
every single villain is so complex. It's
Mhm.
is so not relatable, because we're not psychopaths, but they still have a human element to them, even though they attain incredible power, which
Okay.
is extremely interesting.
See, my first impression with JoJo is the animation is different, right?
Mhm.
Like it looks like they were comic books, like the way they're drawn with the shadow and everything.
Yeah.
And even on the show itself, they still have those, weird
Yes.
makeup. So is
And with
JoJo
each part, with each part, it becomes more JoJo-y. Yeah.
True.
okay? So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, is JoJo an acquired taste? Like even for
Mm.
me, it was kind of hard to get into it because again I started with part 6, which is wrong, but
Right.
the animation was really like looking weird to me. Maybe because I
Mm.
started with part 6. If I started with
Oh,
part 1, I
Probably.
wouldn't say the same. So what do you
Right.
guys think about the artistic side of it?
So I wouldn't say now for me again. I'm someone who's I'll speak about my personal experience. I'm someone who's very hard to change an opinion, and I was going in that this is going to be bad, and it turned out incredible. So I love the art style. When you're talking about part 6, so I remember part 6 came out in two parts, in two halves on Netflix,
mm,
and there was the first part of it. The animation had some comments. People had comments on the animation, but then the
Mm.
mm,
second half, which was after episode whatever, was glorious. So there was an issue. I don't know if it's COVID. I don't know if it's whatever. But something happened where they had to split it into two. And part 6 takes place in almost one location or one
yeah.
area, while for example part 3 is from Japan to every single country. They pass through Abu Dhabi. Even there's like one or two episodes in Abu Dhabi, and they go to Egypt, and then there's almost half part 3, which is the longest part, takes place in Egypt, and half takes place. So you see a lot of things. You see a lot of beautiful things. Even part 4, which also takes place in one location in Japan, is so beautiful. It's so unique. Part 5 also takes place. It's very beautiful. But I think part 6 specifically had a bit of a problem in the beginning, animation wise, because it takes place in a prison, and
Yeah.
there's not much movement in a prison. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
And
Yeah.
her blood thingy was really weird for me. It's like,
Mm,
okay, I am not
yeah.
understanding that.
I know
Fine.
you.
So
I know
that's
you.
why I stopped with 2 or 3 episodes. How about you,
Yeah.
Amy?
Like story wise, I don't think it's an acquired taste. I think it really has a very, very solid story. But I think it is the art style that would put people off from it. Just because it's not a
Yeah.
usual sort of art. It's very quirky.
Yes. I agree
It
with that.
is
I agree.
bizarre in that sense. So I feel
One
like,
hundred percent.
but it does very much suit the show. Like if
Yeah.
you end up watching the show and like really getting into the story, you'll be like, yeah, there's no other way that you could like the art style makes sense. Like there's no other
They
way.
can do like the One Punch Man, or like the One Piece sort of like the anime,
Yeah.
big eye one dot, or like these humorous. Even the show itself does not have a lot of anime like cliches, like when they're
Mm.
fighting, and like they start having a whole conversation, and like they cut to, like it's very unique. It's a very, very, very unique show, and it's influential over so many mangakas and so many other animes that people say. Like AOT is very much inspired. One of the culmination moments of AOT is taken from part 1 of JoJo's, when something happens and someone is holding someone. That is a direct reference to so on. And the author of AOT had like a JoJo, one of the stands of JoJo on his desk, as well, like as well part of the decoration. So it is influential. It's hugely influential. Yeah.
I am interested to know which part of Attack on Titan that was.
Yeah, towards the
L-
very end. Yeah.
like,
I,
okay, which part? you know?
I'll 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 throw the bombshell. I watched AOT back to back, completely finished it. JoJo's is superior, 100%, because the ending for AOT was
Predictable?
uh, it made everything before it useless almost. Tried to teach you such a lesson that it nullified a lot of the sacrifices that happen, especially if you've seen the sequence that happens while the credits are rolling in the last episodes, and it's like
It happened again.
what? Yeah, if we can say so. Basically, oh, violence is a constant cycle. Don't teach me a lesson. Let me watch the anime, and I'll get the lesson. So up to that ending, comparing the ending, because that's what I was telling people. They're like, well, either first of all, we're not gonna watch JoJo. It looks ridiculous. I kept
Mm.
harassing them until they did. I kept harassing them until they did, and then when I finished it, and I had finished AUT right before it, I told them it's better because the ending was much better, so it concluded the entire thing much better. They're like, there's no way. And then they finished, and they agreed with me on some points that I was saying. Of course, their AOT is an incredible show. I'm not hating on
Yeah.
Attack on Titan. I'm not crazy. Uh, but comparison-wise, JoJo is the top anime I've ever seen.
I'm interested because like you're the second person so far that I've heard that didn't like the ending of Attack on
Hmm.
Titan. When everybody's saying like, "Oh, it's mind blowing," like, "Oh, it's so amazing," and Kevin shared the same sentiment that, what is this ending? You know, like,
Mm,
Mm.
how is it
mm.
great? I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, that's why.
It, if it's happened before in other things, whether it's movies or not anime
Mm,
specifically. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense. I think we better have another episode for Attack on Titan because like
Yes,
everybody's giving this controversial take. But now going back to the JoJo discussion, since you guys have mentioned that technically every one of them, like there's a lot of JoJos in the
Hmm.
show,
Mm.
right? Who is your favorite JoJo?
I'll tell you, I don't hate any of them. I love them all. Like, really, really do love them. But one of them, which I found his story to be also connecting a lot of the parts together, is Joseph, who shows up in part two. I love
He's my favorite
Joseph.
too.
Joseph is hilarious. Joseph is tough. Joseph serves as a, so he's, the unruly trainee in the beginning, becomes a mentor character, and then continues on. So he has a very nice story, and so on. But of course, I love Jotaro. I love Jonathan, even because Jonathan reminds me of Superman. Superman.
Mm.
Some criticism that people give the first part was Jonathan Joestar is very right, is right, and he's not flawed, and he's such a
Mm.
gentleman, and so on, which reminds me of Superman. If we're gonna bridge Western and Eastern stories, and people love Superman for that, he's a beacon of hope. Jonathan very much is a beacon of these more, and then all of his descendants are like hooligans and like gangsters, like
Yeah.
crazy people, which is funny. They learned from there, so you watch the evolution, and then as one story, it's beautiful.
What about you, Amy? Who's your favorite JoJo?
Joseph is also my favorite.
Hey.
Yeah. For me, he's like, I feel like, I don't know if it's an unpopular opinion or not, but it's sort of like, I feel like most people love Jotaro the most,
Mm,
and
mm.
understandably so. But for me,
Jotaro is the coolest.
like, he's the coolest. Like,
100%.
think
He's
of
the one
it
with
like,
the hat, right? Am I
yeah,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
think of him like Zoro from One Piece, almost.
Hmm, hmm.
In that sort of vibe. So it's
Yeah,
understandable why most people like Jotaro, but for me it was Joseph. Like he's just
yeah.
very charismatic, and I love the character development. They did do him dirty though. You know what I mean? You know what I mean by that? They
Uh,
did do him dirty, but then we wouldn't have another Jojo. Like we wouldn't have
I know
Joseph.
what you mean. I know what you mean. And this is awesome to see, because you'll find a lot of people love Giorno and Josuke, and those people
Mm,
you'll find are usually younger. So these are people who discovered the show once those parts were animated or so on. So you see, JoJo's draws people from all different, because also Jolene is incredible. Jolene,
mm,
also one of the best female protagonists, and she's the main character of carrying the last and final part of JoJo's. Incredible. Part 7 has a paraplegic JoJo. Like, it's very groundbreaking. The show
mm.
is absolutely insane in that regards as well. So you'll find that it draws all kinds of people, which is I
Yeah.
love about JoJo.
I just had to Google who's Joseph because I know the other one, the one
Yeah,
with the cap, but I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
who is
Jotaro.
Joseph. So I had to check.
Mm.
Now,
Right.
speaking of JoJo, what is the best JoJo fight scene?
That's a good one. That's a good one. My most memorable one is in part 3. There's a big culminative fight towards the end. In part 4, it's surprising how strong the villain is, Kira, and his power is extremely powerful, and every fight with him is very intense. But the way they did part 3, for me, parts 1 and 2, the power system was called Hamon, and
Mm.
then 3 onwards, it became stands.
Okay.
And one of the big plot points of JoJo Part 3 was, what is Dio's stand?
Mm.
Right? So that was a mystery, and you couldn't. And then, speaking of what Amy was seeing in a meme, when you're watching it in the show, it's like, what? You know what I'm saying? So to me, that was absolutely intense. Goosebumps, because you wouldn't guess what it is.
What
So
about
for
you,
me, it's
Amy?
that final fight in part 3. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Because
we
like,
have me and Waleed have the same opinion.
Hmm.
Because no, because you really like it's really a mystery. Like this is they've all joined up together to figure it out. Like it's
Yes,
this
yes,
whole
yes.
running thing, and it's like
It's
a
crazy.
very OP sort of
they
stand.
they they take a and, and it's the whole thing is insane from start to finish, because they have a photo of the villain, and then there is a fly, and they're like, oh, this is the Eastern Nile fly, so
Yes.
he's in that province of Egypt, so we have to go and gang up on him in Egypt, and like they have to go, and he throws everything at them to stop, which is insane. And the villain being the villain in part 3 is a huge plot twist, it
Mm.
is a huge reveal as well. And one important thing is that part 1, 2, 3, or like, sorry, parts 1 and 2, they have a post-credit scene, as we say. So it teases the part that's directly after it. So you start it immediately, seamlessly.
okay, makes sense. Guys, don't worry about spoilers because I am sure I will forget it. So even if you mention anything, I don't
You're
think it
like
will
me.
affect. Yeah,
You're like me. I can see spoilers and I'll completely forget about them,
exactly.
which is a
Like it's
superpower. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be wiped out from my memory because like everyone was telling me spoilers for One Piece before I started watching it. You know, like
Right. Right.
oh this part, and I'm like when I was watching it, I don't even know what they were talking about. You know, so like
Right. Hmm.
it doesn't take away from me. So even if you guys tell me anything, I
Hmm.
wouldn't
Hmm.
understand it. Now
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
moving,
exactly the same.
Good. Good.
which is a superpower, as what Waleed said.
100%. 100%.
Now you guys mentioned something about stands or
Hmm.
stand,
Stand.
Stand.
and
Stand. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, which stand would you want in real life?
Ooh, that's a good question. Hmm. That's a very
That's
good question.
difficult. That's a very difficult question.
I think um, now there's a lot of stands. There are stands that are like more support, healing, attacking, and so on. There's very, very complicated stands. But I think Golden Experience would be very useful in a whole array of things, which is the stand in part 5. Giorno Giovanna's stand. That would be very useful
Mm.
in a lot of things, because it can manipulate things and like create things and so on. And it's extremely like it's one of the most strongest. Like Goku's got nothing on that. Yeah. Like that's yeah, yes, I said it. So it's just like you're so strong. No, you're not. Not anymore. Boof. That's it. Skinny Hick, Giorno Giovanna absolutely can beat almost anyone. There are a lot of stands that could be very useful. Yeah. I want to hear what Amy's gonna say.
I don't know. Because Purple Haze is very violent. So it's
Purple Haze is very
very, yeah.
fun. COVID
It's very.
COVID stand. Yeah, yeah.
I can't think of one actually.
I'll tell you which one. Diver something in part 6. The one for Narciso, Anastasia, and part 6. It's a very useful, and the one that can swim in objects, can go in the
Oh
water.
yeah. Oh, that is
That's
very
extremely.
useful. Yeah, that
That
is
is
very
very, very
useful.
insane,
Yeah.
insane. You know, Spider-Man and Batman are in JoJo's, technically, also, which is
Really?
insane. Yeah, watch it. Spider-Man is in the manga, Batman is in the anime. This is for
Okay.
my homies in the comic world.
I will look into that. I will definitely. I mean, I will probably forget everything that we discussed here by the
Yeah,
time I'm
yeah,
watching it, but I will make sure to take note of those things. Especially Spider-Man and Batman are very popular. Now,
yeah.
moving on to the next part, which is what is the true JoJo experience? Because you've mentioned Waleed that before you were watching Arabic subs. Obviously, Amy has watched
Mm,
English dub as well,
mm, mm,
subs.
mm.
What is the true experience? Is the
Uh,
dubbing in JoJo good, or
right.
you'd prefer the Japanese version of it?
So if you watch it dubbed in English, it's a crime against humanity and reason and common sense and art. So you don't watch it in English. You
Really?
watch it in Japanese. You watch it in Japanese, because you lose 90% of the charm if you watch it in English. The voice acting is horrible. You lose a lot of the humor of a lot of the characters trying to speak English and
Yeah.
failing to speak English, which is hilarious, which happens consistently in like the first three parts, which is just like jokes. It's so funny because they try to, because almost every JoJo is a different nationality also. One is Italian, one is American, one is British, one is Japanese, one is American. Yeah, we even said American. So
Yeah.
because they're trying to speak, so they speak it with the Japanese accent for the voice actors who are performing, which comes off as hilarious. So if you watch it in English, might as well you have not uh, you know, Goku's ridiculous picnic. It will not be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It will be horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, the dubbed version of it is also cool. Like animes in general, right? Because, like, for example, for me, who's someone that watches anime while I'm doing, let's say, household chores or
Right.
adulting duties, like, it makes sense for me to watch in dub sometimes just so I can still
Right.
hear it. But then Amy did mention earlier that it's not something that you should be
So
or
subs,
Yeah.
watching while doing
subs is
something
the way
else.
to go. Subs is the way to
Okay.
go for me in general as well, and specifically in JoJo's. Like there are only very few animes that I found that the English is. Castlevania is very good in English. Pokemon is great in English, but
Yeah.
other than that, I can't seem to remember more things. But JoJo's has to be in Japanese.
Okay.
And if you're a psychopath, watch every part in their native tongue. The Italian one, watch it in no, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's watch it in Japanese. Watch it in Japanese. Otherwise, you're being robbed of some of the best voice acting because a lot of these people are in. So Jotaro is the same VA as Erwin. Erwin rather.
Oh,
So
from Attack on
rather,
Titan.
yeah. Zeke is Dio, voice actor. Rather, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
JoJo's came first, not AOT in terms of
Voice acting.
animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're robbing yourself of a lot of excellent performances and a lot of humor because it takes you
Okay.
by surprise. They start randomly speaking in English and it makes no sense at all. And the plot is insane also because like they go from like I don't know Victorian England or whatever, and then they're suddenly amongst like Nazi Germany, and then suddenly like Florida, Miami, like it takes place in such a it's absolutely bananas, like it's crazy.
What about you, Amy? What did you watch it in dub or sub?
No, I watched it sub.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
I think most people who watches anime usually watch it in sub anyway. Even for me, I only started watching it when I came here in the UAE, like dubbed versions of anime, just because like you want to be productive while still watching
Yeah.
anime because adulting
Yeah.
duties, as I've mentioned. But anyway, speaking of the plot, you guys were mentioning about the plots in JoJo, how amazing it is. Guys, give me one moment in JoJo that blew your mind. Just one.
The biggest one was the ending, which I'm not gonna tell you because that's a big spoiler.
Ah, yeah,
And
because like
just yeah. That every part blew my mind. What Amy was talking about, there's a huge death in part one. There's a huge death in part two. Because one big important element, Viv, other than the JoJos, is the Jo Bros, their sidekicks or their friends each part, and there's a whole different conversation on which one is the best one. And they're
Oh, that's true.
yeah. So every part of JoJo's, so many people die. So you're gonna go through a lot of like what the hell, and there's even a cameo for a returning character in like part 5, which absolutely Amy, you know who I'm talking about, comes up
Yeah.
later towards the end, which is so I'm so glad that they did that because he's one of the funniest characters, one of the best characters. But the culmination for me was that ending, the whole ending, the whole last episode.
no, I wanted to ask Amy about her one big moment in JoJo.
I think for me, it really would have to be the one I mentioned earlier, the part 1 to part 2 moment.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was like, oh, that's really what got me into JoJo. Like it's like what Waleed said. There's many surprising like plot twists about it that is very unexpected. That it's like you think it's going one way and it goes a completely different way, or there's a lot of surprising moments. But for me it would be that transition of part 1 to part 2, just because that was like the first of it all.
Right.
Like that's what started it all.
Waleed mentioned about the ending that he cannot talk about, What about a second best then? Because like you obviously don't want to spoil the ending.
Yeah, of course. I can't spoil the ending. The second best, like mind blowing moment,
Mm-hmm.
the one I mentioned about the big fight in part three,
Ah,
when they reveal what the guy's power is and how they start fighting. That was very, goosebumps, because also things have gone to such a critical point, um, where it's just super intense.
anything you want to add, Amy?
No, nothing else. I mean, like, because it's very hard to say anything specific. I know that you won't really
Yeah,
remember it, but then it's still like, I feel like it'll still ruin the experience of, oh, this should have been a shock factor, but now it's
yeah,
not.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, fine. I will stop asking questions about specifics of the plot. Now let's talk about what would you say to someone who's hesitant to watch JoJo like me? How
Hmm.
can you convince me to watch JoJo? I mean, technically this whole conversation already made me want to watch it.
Very
But like
encouraging. Yeah.
yeah. So what so what would you tell someone?
For me personally, I'll say, yani, so I started watching it as time passed, to joke on it, to hate on it, whatever. But I mean, towards the end, as especially that it's a manga translated into anime and it's still running, from a literary point of view, from
Mm,
creating a fictitious body of work, it's unparalleled. Yeah, there's nothing like it. I cannot find something to describe. To You know how people say AOT is like anime Game of Thrones?
yeah.
I'm
You know how
sorry.
people say that?
Okay, yeah.
JoJo is nothing like it. That's one way I can put it for you. The people used to say AOT had like the same plot twists and like the tragedies of similar to Game of Thrones. Like when they say, "Oh, this is like Game of Thrones," like, "Oh, amazing, incredible." Funny enough, like Game of Thrones, it ended on a, you know what I'm saying?
Mm,
JoJo's
Okay.
yeah.
JoJo's is JoJo's. There's nothing like it. From a literary standpoint, from a criticism
Mm,
standpoint, to me as a filmmaker,
yeah.
unparalleled. I'm surprised this guy, probably a time traveler or something. I don't know how he managed to pull this thing off, but it's incredible. Yeah.
What about you, Amy?
Time Traveler, is that a JoJo reference?
Some might say it is. Yeah. Everything is a JoJo reference.
Everything's a JoJo reference.
Guys, I'm not understanding the references yet.
That's why
You
it's
will.
very hard
You
to
will.
speak. You will understand. You look back
Yeah.
and be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
very hard to say something. But
It
yeah,
has something for everyone, for music fans, because a lot of the stands are
yeah.
named after music or bands. For people who
Mm.
love, who don't like anime, even they can enjoy it because it's one of the earliest animes that took place outside of Japan and featured non-Japanese protagonists. Because the first JoJo is not Japanese; it takes place in
Mm,
the UK, in England. So,
Oh.
that is a big draw point, to people even who don't want anime, and people who love anime will love it because of the blueprint or the impact it left on anime. Because there isn't a mangaka or a anime creator who doesn't say JoJo's inspired me in one way or another. Because now the author is old now, yeah, he's older. And as we said, from the 80s till from 1987, 86, something like that, till today, part 9 is still going. Of course, there's years between each part, but you'll find whichever part you are, whichever age group or whatever background you come from, you'll find something you'll enjoy in JoJo's.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that, Amy?
I mean, it's pretty much what Waleed said. Like, there's really something for everyone in that sense because they are very different characters. We were saying there's always a different JoJo, so it's
Yeah.
all gonna be you're gonna find something not that would relate to you or like even their friends, like in their
Hmm.
group of friends. It'll really draw you in, even if their set of friends are very different from the other set of friends, and even if their characters are very different. There's something very human about all of
Hmm.
them, and even like aside from it inspiring other pop culture. In itself, there's a lot of pop culture references within the show. It's just fun to watch. It's like if you're someone that's very into pop culture, it's like, oh, okay, that's referencing this, and that's what that is, and it's a very very unique show. I guess that's what I would say to someone like, that wants to watch it or is curious about it. It's a very unique show. It's a very different art. It's a very different story. It's just unique. So if you
Absolutely.
want to watch something that's artistically unique, then yes, like definitely go for it.
I feel like the vibe that I'm getting from both of you guys is that the rules of anime doesn't really apply much to JoJo, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because like
The stereotypical anime stuff, yeah, it doesn't apply because it possibly predates a lot of what became popular. Because
Mm.
it's from the 80s and
yeah.
so on and so forth. So it's not inspired by whoever put those cliches. You know what I mean?
He started the cliche.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for recommending JoJo to us. Now let's move on to the last part of our show, which is this show was technically just for us recommending JoJo to people, right? But is there
Absolutely.
any off-topic recommendation that you would want to add, Waleed? Can be anything, anything under the sun.
Hmm. I mean, in terms of watching, you mean movies, shows, anime, whatever?
Yeah, anything.
Okay, okay. A quick fire. I'll give you a few things. Anime, Cowboy Bebop, very very cool, very very awesome. Movies, watch a movie called The Mist. It's a horror film, has an insane ending. That's my go-to recommendation for anyone who's like, oh, I want to watch a movie. Watch The Mist. It's incredible. It's based on a Stephen King novel. And a TV show. Watch True Detective season one. One of the best. It completely transformed television from when it came out till today. So here, three recommendations. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Waleed. We only asked for one, you gave us three.
and that too is like a TV show, a movie, and an anime.
Uh, you're set.
Yeah. So, last but not the least, where can people find you, Waleed?
So on Instagram, you'll find me at Waleed.Hmidan, and from there on, you can access, my comic book shop, my whatever filmmaking that I work on, and so on. And I'll see you at events happening in the UAE, whether it's Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and so on. I'm always at these conventions, and I'll see you at MEFCC, inshallah, as well.
Mhm.
And come, let's talk about JoJo. Let's talk about other things, movies, TV. Why not share a passion? Why not, make someone enjoy something, or try and have someone have some more fun, or put them on some peak. Why not? You'll be
Yeah.
doing society a favor.
Thank you for that. And how about you, Amy? Where can people find you?
You can follow me at Just Anything on Instagram.
And obviously for me, guys, you can follow me at Vivz Black Mage. Don't forget to follow the Ara Ara channel on our socials: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We also do have a Discord server where you can join and hang out with us. Just chat with us and everyone else in there. And last but not the least, we have a subreddit dedicated to the UAE anime community here in UAE. And also, don't forget to follow Otaku ME. Use our code OME Ara Ara to get 10% discount on their regular priced items. So yeah, thank you, Waleed. Thank you so much for being such a
Thank you
wonderful
so much.
guest and sharing with us your love for JoJo. Thank you, Amy, as well for this episode. And thank you guys for listening. You guys have a wonderful day ahead. Bye.
Bye bye.
Ara Ara